while Zoom meetings are great, they did ensure continuity, nothing like meeting each other in person. So thank you so much for your time today. What I wanted to do was that just reflect upon that as a GBS, what has the journey been, but more importantly, what lies ahead. And there are multiple dimensions that we would want to look at. But before we go into what will be great is that maybe I'll request the esteemed leaders to do a quick introduction, and then we take it up from there.
So thanks, Amit, and thank you for having us. And it's a privilege to be part of this esteemed panel. I'm Deshant. I'm the Managing Director and Head of PepsiCo's GBS. We're a very nascent organization, about 3 years in the making, based out of Hyderabad. We're on a growth journey, very, very late in the game, but we are looking to grow quite significantly in the next few years. Been in the shared services space for almost 18 years. Started with GE Genpact, and then for the last 10 years prior to PepsiCo, I was with American Express, heading up their transformation practice for the GBS. So it's great to be here, and look forward to the conversation.
Good morning, I'm Navneet Bansal. I represent JSW Group. JSW is largely known for its steel business. We are the largest manufacturer of steel in India now. But not many people know that we are also into manufacturing of cement. We have some ports. We call it our infra business. We generate power, and we also have privilege of owning Delhi Capitals and Bangalore Football Club. So me and my organization, which is JSW GBS, manages the shared service center for this entire group, encompassing all these business lines. We have close to 30 plus different locations, largely factory and manufacturing locations across India. So we are close to 6 years old, and we created our shared service center in Mumbai, wherein we moved work from all these 30 plus different locations, largely Indian manufacturing setup. And we are managing finance, commercial, and HR operations for the group.
Hi, myself Nitin Jain, and I am representing Welspun Global Services. Welspun Global Services is the captive shared services of Welspun Group. It's a global shared services center because we are taking care their US operation as well as the UK operation also. We started our journey from year 2018, and today we are running our shared services center from 2 locations. One is in Vapi and the another one is in Ahmedabad. And we are serving for finance and accounts, HR, and now we are taking the other group activities also, which includes the procurement, marketing, merchandising. We are making the ITES shared services center in Ahmedabad for 500-seater. And by profession, I'm a chartered accountant. I started my shared services journey very late, somewhere in 2015. And it's a growing business, and shared services is something which is like the Excel. Every day we are learning something new from this shared services. In the beginning, my thought process was that shared services is known for this back office management, but I think over the period of time I learned that it is much beyond than the back office management. So happy to be part here. I'm here to learn from you, from all the leaders here. Thank you for being me here. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And what I really took away is the kind of breadth that the leaders are actually servicing, right from ports to sports, right, from beverages. So obviously a very, very good experience. As a quick introduction, my name is Amit Kumar. I'm a partner with the Boston Consulting Group Technology Practice, where we work very closely with the GBS, helping them think about how they can service the global parents and take leadership roles. Also the technology services companies. So as we begin, I think what we have seen is that the GBS journey, not just in India, but globally, cost efficiency is a given, and they're not something that we should even talk about in my sense, right? over the last decade, a lot of operational efficiency has been driven by the GBS. We speak about the automation, which is pervasive. Everything is automated to the core. In fact, GBS today are telling the parents that your processes are more manual than they should be. So people are learning from GBS. However, if you look through, right, in what lies ahead, there is definitely a big post-pandemic, and I'm hopeful I'll call it post-pandemic right now, is that the economic scenario is changing very fast. The geopolitical stress that we see globally is very high. The supply chains are constrained. People are investing in more resilience. There is a lot of operational and strategic thinking that is going through, and we do see a lot changing in how organizations will run in the next 5 to 6 years. We do believe that GBS will now take even greater role in the global parent organizations. What I want to learn from the panelists is that how they think the GBS will evolve, what does the next look like, and also what are the aspects that they think will be beneficial for different GBS leaders and parent organizations to think about. Maybe we'll start with Mr. Kaila over here.
Sure. So before I talk about PepsiCo, I'll kind of give you a bit of my views, right, in terms of the GBS, having seen it for some time to come. I think the first thing I would say is that right now, if you look at GBS India, and I'm going to talk specific about India, and shared services and GBS I'm going to use interchangeably. But if you look at that, we are at a very unique strength, in terms of where we are on our longitudinal experience on shared services. And what I mean by that is, for the last so many years, we've come at a place where now we can actually, as we implement new services, we can actually determine and almost pan out what the next 4 to 5 years will look like for an organization, right? So just think about the value that we are going to be able to bring by being able to create and make the move from being transactional to strategic for a lot of the organization. So I think that's really the new paradigm that's started to come about, and surely because of the fact that we've been in the shared services business for a long time, right? If you look at the GBS ecosystem here in India, it's thriving. So that's a very unique position that we are in. So that's my first point that I'll make. The second thing is that we are no longer isolated geographies, right? We are basically the sum of a whole, right? And what that has done is it actually has put us in a very unique position to be unexpected unifiers for organizations to start to come together, collaborate, innovate, and communicate, right? Which never used to happen before. What was happening was you would have, local mandates, you would have business mandates, but you would not have global mandates. And what GBSs have been able to bring to the fore is really to start to look at how do we globalize those, right? And many of us have worked with, different organizations, business entities still focused on countries and regions. They still haven't been able to break the silos, right? And I'm talking about PepsiCo is no different. So is, I think, many other companies, no matter how global they are. And I think that's the other piece that we've started to do is really the part of each hub operating on their own, but strengthening the whole, right? And I think that's the other piece that started to come, which is obviously a trend that I've started to see. The third one, and which is again very unique here, is the ability for us to be able to leverage our startup ecosystem and our academia, right? Over the last, I think 2.5 years, this has started to really grow, right? In terms of looking at how do we determine use cases, how do we throw those challenges out to those startups to be able to come back with us with proof of concepts and so on and so forth without making any investment on our side. And I think that's the other piece that if you look at parent organizations, if you look at innovation, right, to the point Amit you made, is I think that's a great starting point because it is the path of least resistance. You don't invest, you go out, to organizations that have an appetite and the expertise to be able to figure out the solution that you are looking for and then throw it back at you and test it out, right? So that's the other piece that's, I think, is starting to come about. So those are three broad trends within the space that I see will kind of kick up and go off for the next, 2 to 5 years. As far as PepsiCo is concerned, we are a make, move, sell company, right? We make convenient snacks and beverages, right? But our ecosystem, our environment is very complex, right? Any FMCG, right from manufacturing to delivery to our consumers. And to the point I think Amit you just made, we are having a lot of headwinds in terms of raw materials, inflationary headwinds around supply chain disruptions. So it is obviously, a lot of thinking that's gone into the GBS. I talked about it that we are just about 3 years old. And the reason we came in late was because we were really thinking through of what we want to do when we set this up. And I'll talk a little bit about maybe during the conversation is also the idea here is that we want to move from a shared services or a GBS to a capability oriented, right? In the last 3 years, I can tell you that we've set up 60 capabilities, which is unheard of, right? When you think about any organization that started to come together. 60 capabilities in 3 years, and all these capabilities are where we want to evolve to. So there is a lot of thought that's gone in, and I think the future for us, at least the way I look at it, is we will have services, we'll have the transactions, right? But how do we create global capabilities from our centers, whether they're based here or others? So that's a little bit of the thought I wanted to share.
Maybe you can also share your perspective, how you're looking at it, given especially the breadth of businesses you serve.
Okay, so everyone has been talking about a couple of things. AI, ML coming, it's already in place. And there is one study which suggests that by 2025, 40% of activities might be automated by using AI and ML. Data number one. Data number two, blockchain. Okay, blockchain, like distributed ledger, is expected to turn around 360-degree upside the entire accounting arena. Third, metaverse. One of the study of Accenture suggests that by 2023, which is next year, they will hire 150,000 employees fresh, and all of them will be exposed to metaverse environment in year one of their journey. So that's the kind of world we are living in. And I would like to believe that for any organization, a mature GBS or a mature shared service center is a fulcrum and a catalyst of bringing these changes. Any digital transformation, any transformational change is so much easy to drive from a centralized operating center like GBS or shared services. So if organizations are going through such a massive change, it is important to understand what changes will happen in shared services and GBS because of this. Now, in my thought process, couple of changes will happen. Let's talk about the processes first. GBS and shared services are all about processes, like centralized processes, be it finance, commercial, HR, IT, etc. Now, what will change in processes? Think about blockchain. By 2027, world's 10% GDP would be managed on blockchain, one of the studies suggests. What does that mean? It means that we may not necessarily have towers like AP, AR, R2R, etc. in shared services after 2 years or 3 years from now. Someone will click a button, will initiate a transaction, and that transaction will flow from subledger to GL to reporting to audit, etc. So you may not necessarily have multiple teams and multiple processes managing the trail of a particular transaction. So this will have a significant impact on the way we are currently organized, or we are currently organized our processes. Environment. Now, metaverse. I know, still it is a fancy word. Not all of us have exposed to it, but some of us have. Some demos are available. People come and show us how it will work, how it will look like. But once it becomes a reality, and very soon it will, what I think will happen is the entire GBS or shared services will be decentralized. We may not necessarily have centralized locations managing operations. When people can work from anywhere, we do not need headquarters or shared services offices. We may be having some decentralized or hub and spoke model type of environment coming in. Especially for developing countries like India, I think this will bring one more significant change. I would like to believe that rural BPOs and rural outsourcing will be will be growing multifolds. Our education system will be decentralized. We need not necessarily go to IIMs, IITs, or for that matter, any quality education. We will not be restricted to few institutes located either globally or in India. Education will come to our doorstep because of metaverse and because of blockchain. More and more students will be exposed to quality education. And if we create that kind of capability in our remote 2 and remote 3 cities, BPOs and shared services will definitely go there. Today, the problem is that we may not necessarily have talent available all across. Once we create that talent in smaller cities, no reason why we cannot have or will not have shared service and outsourcing spreading across these different cities. So that is, I think, going to be a big change in my view in next 3 or 4 years or maybe 5 years down the line. Third is people. Shared services, GBS is all about people. It's people's industry. My prediction is that because of all these technology changes, and it's not scary thought, but I think it's going to be reality, and sooner it sinks in, better it is, the middle management and supervisory bench will take the maximum hit. Lot more transactions will be automated, so you would not need too much of supervision to manage your BAU operations. So your entire pyramid will undergo a significant change. Top senior leaders would be needed. Robots, we call it hum bots in our organization because it's a combination of human beings and robots. Hum bots would be there to do transactions, but the middle layer might be impacted adversely because supervision might undergo a significant change. So these are some of the practical changes which I foresee will happen because of this entire transformation which is happening around us. Probably we'll talk more about it.
No, absolutely. This is fantastic. I really like the word bots. That's very unique. Mr. Jain, will be great to hear your perspective as well on this.
So my view is in coming future, this BPS or shared services will become the separate product line. Today, many organizations, especially in India, started their shared services center as a captive shared services center. But these companies are selling their product. In future, I foresee that in next 4 to 5 years, probably these companies will be part of selling services also related to the shared services. Even in our case, like Welspun Global Shared Services Center, we started our journey with the captive shared services, only with the finance and accounts. And then we took the another functions, another business also. Now we are exploring market also. So we have planned that maybe next year we will go outside. We have a good plan to invest there. We'll go outside, we'll sell our services outside Welspun. So this is something which I foresee, Amit, that this is the future because this concept is it's very common in foreign countries, but especially post-COVID, the situation is getting changed, and big industry leaders are looking this shared services as their business line also.
That's very helpful, and of course, I think so in the past we've seen some very successful examples, right? Jackie's being one of the most celebrated ones. As I was hearing you, I think I took away 2 or 3 connected themes. If I think of a triad, right, on one end, we are looking at technology. So technology, essentially, we're saying the way we are investing in technology, the percentage will increase significantly. The role technology plays in the GBS of the future will be like, that is the foundational, and then we think about what more do we do. So that's the role of technology. Second is the talent. Mr. Bansal spoke about how some of the middle layer might be impacted and they might have to reskill or upskill. But the important part is the role of specialized talent as well. There's a dichotomy right now. There might be a place where we may be able to go to rural India. At the same time, we are short of people who have experience of certain skill set. Third, which is sort of pervasive, is the future of work, right? Work from anywhere or a hybrid work model, how that is changing the pyramid. If I what will be interesting for us to hear from you is that how are you approaching this triad, right? The technology, work from anywhere, and the talent, and what are the key learnings that we can take away in what you have done? Maybe start from you, Mr. Jan.
Okay. As I told in my opening remark that shared services is now known beyond the transactions. So transaction is something which is considered, okay, that's the normal thing. The SLA completions, the KPI completion, it's something which is which any shared services should do. Now business is looking us as a business partner. Shared services is sitting on lots of data, on a different kind of data. The business is expecting us that we should provide them the good analysis which can help them in taking the business decisions in a quickly manner, and this cannot be done without the use of technology. So of course in any GBS or the shared services center, the RPA RPA was and it will be in coming future also is one of the important weapon in any shared services center, where the expectation is that the transaction or the where the decision making is not there, the RPA should do that transaction. So that technology, of course, is very known technology, and I can share some practical example from Welspun. We enter into this RPA journey very late. We started our journey, RPA journey, in year 2019, and within a period of 18 months, we moved close to more than 100 processes through the RPA. And even the Welspun got the Best Technology Adoption Company of the Year award also from UBS. And it helped us to achieve the business KPIs, the business, the business profit also. Then the second layer is on the technology is the like, as I told, we are sitting on lots of data, how we can structure that data. So maybe some tools like BI, Cognos, ClickView, the organizations are using to provide the insights to the business through these tools. And again, in Welspun, we developed close to 500 dashboards through the BI, where because our focus is that generally what was happening that our 90% time was going into the data preparation and 10% was going on the analytics part. We changed it. Okay. Now everything on this just click. Like today, if I want to see the status of my shared services, that how many invoices they are processing today, how much invoices they processed today, yesterday, what is the collection, what is the outstanding, I can just click through my mobile. So we developed this more than 500 dashboards through this Power BI. And it's really helping us to achieve this goal in this technology part. Then if both things are stabilized, I think now we should focus on this machine learning and the artificial intelligence. So again in Welspun, we are now going to use this machine learning and artificial intelligence, where, and here the government is helping us actually. Because government is in many ways it's much beyond than the private organizations. So you just see like for example the recent change on the GST invoice, where if the vendor's invoices, the vendor is having more than 20 crores of turnover, the QR code is there, and through that QR you can just process any invoice, and that data will automatically match with your GST return. So that means it's of course from the efficiency point of view, we are getting the good efficiency, but from the controls point of view also, we are getting the good controls. So here in Welspun, we recently deployed the machine learning in our invoice processing, and automatically we are processing close to 40,000 invoices through just one click. And even if the volume will be 40 lakhs, we can process with the same number of manpower there. And like JSW, we also have bot. Our bot name is Chitti, and it's a trademarked bot. Even the Rajnikant cannot use this name and the face now, because he got the patent. And So rather in our shared services center, the another point is, Amit, the technology adoption. Many times we, as a leader, what mistake we do, some consultant come, they present their presentation, it's so beautiful presentation and we buy that product. And later on our production staff said, okay, they cannot use this, it's not feasible. So this is something I think, this is my suggestion, we should work, like the adoption of the technology is very important. So like in our case, there is one team, we call it as a value lab. So many organizations said as a center of excellence. In our case, we are calling them as a value lab. So there are two parts of the value lab. One value lab function is focusing on the development of the bots, AI, ML. The another function of the value lab is focusing on the adoption. And the adoption dashboard is even going at the chairman's level on a quarterly basis. That what is the technology adoption? What is the return on investment on that adoption? We have a dedicated seat for Chitti. There is a dedicated SLA. There is a SLA dashboard, which we are publishing on a monthly basis, because the idea was that the people should not, especially the people of the shared services, they should not think that if the technology is coming, then what will happen about their job. So what we are telling to them that, okay, that was in the SSC 1.0 journey where the expectation was that you should do the transaction. Now under this SSC 2.0, 3.0, the idea is that you should focus more on the analytics part, on the data analytics. You should be the business partner, okay? And that is something which we are doing. Coming back to the another question on the talent part, it's becoming the challenge. It's a challenge for us also. Although it is in the design of the shared services that we need attrition. We need at least 20% attrition. Otherwise, what will happen? We will become the traditional finance and accounts, where the person drawing the salary of 30 lakh rupees and he is processing the invoices. So we don't want to become that. So we need attrition. But of course, the attrition in the key talent is the challenge. And especially in last 12 months to 18 months, when we asked the people to move to the office, there was a good attrition. People, especially in the IT industry, they are coming to us with the 100% jump, and they are still negotiating on that another offer letter. So how we are, covering that piece? In one of the such forums, I also shared one of the good practices of Welspun. There is a triple R model in Welspun. So that model says the revenue for the business. So we picked many green belt projects for the business, which are helping them in generating the revenues, okay? Which are helping them, to have the positive P&L impact. And then we are asking them, so okay, it's a revenue for you. Now it should be the revenue for the shared services also. Please pass some percentage to us. So it's a revenue for business, revenue for shared services. And the third piece, we are passing the fixed percentage to our employees. So that means it's a triple R model that helped us to reduce the attrition at the key talent level. Even some people even got more than 10 lakh rupees of incentives through this triple R model. The another way how we overcome this challenge was the learning and the development. The message to my L&D team is very clear that almost on a daily basis there should be some kind of learning, whether it is through the LTO, which is license to operate, or it is the Six Sigma training. The people should be the white belt, yellow belt, green belt, and then rather we are sponsoring some black belt also. So that is also helping us to reduce the attrition rate at the key level. Day before yesterday, I was with my manager, and he was also giving one of the good suggestions. He was saying that why we cannot hire the spouses of our employees. These people, they are the housewives. Let's hire them, even at the trainees level. So of course that will help us, because we are hiring trainees or the industrial trainees. Instead of hire the freshers, hire the wives or hire the spouses. That will help us to reduce the cost, number one. At the same time, that will also help us to reduce the attrition, because if the wives and the husbands both are working in any organization, that will help us to reduce the attrition rate. So we are encountering this challenge, which is the attrition at the key level. We are trying our level best, and that is a reason. In our case, even if the attrition at the shared services level is more than 20%, but at the key level, it is less than 3%.
That's actually very helpful, especially the triple R model, right? And how you're managing the attrition, the employee value proposition being defined. Mr. Bansal, you spoke about how the rural BPOs, and there have been attempts in the past as well, but obviously the reality is much different right now. What will be very eager to hear from you is that some experiences, if you can share, and also what is working, what is not working as well, because it will guide us, many of our listeners as well, to what they should think about.
Yeah, so before that, let me ask, how many of you in this audience are not from shared service community? Okay, wrong question. How many of you are associated with manufacturing companies in India? Great. So, I think when we talk of this transformation and this automation, AI, blockchain, I think especially for manufacturing setup mindset, change management is the one biggest thing we need to work on. Otherwise, no technology will work, no technology will help. And who we believe had relevant shared service or outsourcing experience. Because we had our own apprehensions, whether people who have been working in plants, drawing 30 lakh salary and still doing invoice processing for the last 15 years, will they be able to cope up with the kind of work we will do in shared services? So we took a conscious call that let's start with 60-40, and over a period we'll see how it works. Now, when we get 60% of people who have been working in a factory environment, doing the same thing, moving manual papers here and there, suddenly to a digital savvy organization, and then we say, okay, robots are coming, what will happen to them? Their morale will go down, there would be resistance, there would be apprehensions. These guys believe that, okay, they will retire from JSW, and believe me, there are plenty of us who believe that we joined JSW and will retire from JSW. Doesn't matter what role, what position, what process you put us in. So we have a lot of such people around us. So what we did was, when we implemented RPA, we got say 20 robots. By the way, we also named them and we took care of gender biasness as well. So almost 7 or 8 processes or sub-processes we chose initially to put RPA on. Almost 50 people were managing those 6 or 7 processes. But what we did was, and I think now if I look back, I feel happy about it, we trained 200 plus people on RPA in our organization. Okay, we conducted with our implementation partners sessions, week-long sessions, to give orientation of RPA, how it will work, how your work will change, etc., etc. And we oriented almost 200 people in our organization with RPA. One benefit we got was that initial threat or perceived threat people had from robots went away. Everyone felt that robots are not going to replace my job, rather I need to work alongside robots. And that cultural shift or that cultural change really helped us a lot when we implemented round 2 and round 3 of RPA and AI. So coming back to our original question, how to prepare ourselves for a future shared services, I think new folks who are coming from colleges, they are all well trained, they know technology better. What we need to probably work and focus more in is how do we bring change management in our existing population. You will have to change the same people in the new technology. So better we start working on that, better we start exposing them to the new technology. it's okay if some of them learn here and move out and find a job elsewhere. But at least we will help them be ready and acquire new skills which will be needed 5 years down the line. So that is one area where we are consciously working on. Another thing is, we spoke about rural BPO, etc. So, okay, maybe this is not the right platform. ET, please don't publish. This is still under discussion stage. But JSW is planning to, we are in a serious discussion to open our second shared service center in a B-class city on the eastern coast of India. Because our next business expansion is happening around Orissa, West Bengal, and that belt, entire mining and port belt. So rather than expanding a shared service center in Bangalore or in Mumbai, we thought, why not we open a shared service center which is closer to those factories and plants, so that those people who are working there can be leveraged better, and also we can bring them on new technology faster. So we'll not have to hire new people here, but we'll train them and leverage that workforce to manage our shared service center. So our second shared service center would be in a tier 2 city, which is closer to manufacturing setups. So these are some of the things which we are currently consciously working on to prepare ourselves for.
Oh, this is very insightful, specifically as you think about opening shared services or GBS near to the plants. I think so what I took away is that consistently thinking about the employees, that how do you provide them alternate career options as well. I think shifting gears, and we spoke about that in the beginning, is that how are we making that shift to COEs? What we are seeing is significant investments in artificial intelligence. We spoke about certain use cases, but the amount of effort that needs to be put into climate and sustainability across all the, whether it is manufacturing or services, is huge. I mean, as a humankind, unfortunately, we are at a place where we are on the point that, okay, if we don't take action right now, it becomes irreversible. What will be great to hear from Mr. Kaila, and he spoke about the different COEs he has developed, that what has the journey been like, because that is certainly something that we've not heard, certainly commendable, and we would be eager to learn from you on what does it take and what makes it successful.
Yeah, so just taking a cue from the earlier conversation, I mean, the challenges we have are very different, from what both of you described. And I think just going back for a minute, just around the technology bit that we talked about, and it links to the capability question that you have, is the fact that when we look at the work that we brought in-house, right? So we don't do any transactions, so we have no AP, AR, nothing. That is all outsourced, right? So we do typically the work that is linked directly into the business. So it's not 2 steps far removed. It's part of that growth engine, the revenue engine of the organization. But I think the way we've described technology, and we've looked at everything, right? It's like a toolbox for us, right? So think about a toolbox which has AI, it has ML, it has Six Sigma, Celonis, you name it, right? The problem is that we need to start to look at defining the problem statement, the use cases that then lend itself to that particular tool. So I think we are down a little bit of a different path, right, in terms of looking at how we do that. And we're still making a lot of inroads, right? PepsiCo, like a lot of other organizations, is a federated organization. We've grown through acquisitions. But we've never stopped to integrate, right? We've just been at it. We are a very execution-based company. So the fact of the matter is that our processes are great in terms of what they do, but they don't talk to each other, right? So in order for us to look at, say, RPA and come back and say we want to implement, what's going to happen is we're going to implement in a sliver of a process. You're going to automate a sliver of the process, and it's going to create a worse experience than it was previously, right? So we are now really deliberating in terms of should we first look at integrating and uplifting the platforms, and so which is why the problem statement comes back, right? In terms of when you look at these toolboxes and these tools, where do you apply them, right? Because your solution is only as good as your problem statement. So that's, I just wanted to make that little bit of a point there. The capability piece is where we are deliberately moving towards, because see, ultimately the vision we have is that we will have global capability centers, right, across, like India being one, maybe have a few others. But we have leaders here who will really create the strategy and the thought for those capabilities globally. And it's not just across different hubs. the vision is that we will have those leaders really integrate with the customer. So think about, like, I give an example like net revenue management, right? Or let's take a simpler one, trade promotion management, right? Everything, if you think about it, every FMCG company runs trade promotions through the year. And that really is what the account managers work with the local, their own regions, their own, vendors in terms of looking at what promotions need to be driven. If you think about that as a capability, and you think about somebody who's designing a full year calendar in terms of looking at the best revenue outcomes that it can drive for our clients, for PepsiCo, for the account manager, and then linking it back to everything that is around in the back end, which is the financial planning, forecasting, so on and so forth, right? How do we achieve that capability, right? And that's where we are trying to get into the technology space to see how do we leverage that. Should we talk about a single global template for our SAPs, for Oracle, whatever the platform, the portfolio management systems are? How do we start to integrate and create standardization? Because to my earlier point, a lot of the things are so federated that they don't talk to each other. You go, and this is, I think, very similar to a lot of the global companies. You go across different countries, regions, and it's a very, very different process, right? So I think that's the piece that we are trying to get more and more on. So just a little bit of a different spin, just of how we are looking at that space.
That's very helpful. I think we spoke a lot about in terms of what the future will look like, very good examples of what has been accomplished, learnings as well. What I would want to also hear from you is that what is the single biggest challenge that you face today, right? And obviously it's a journey, there are so many things which are in motion right now. Will be good to also hear from you, and if you can share how you're thinking of addressing them. Obviously some things take a couple of quarters to address as well.
I mean, I'll go first. So biggest challenge right now is talent, right? Our ability to attract, retain, develop, transfer talent, especially in the new environment we are operating in. I mean, it's not lost to any one of us where we are. When we look at over the last 3 years, right, we have bought talent, right, out of the market. Basically, we've gone out, work's come to us, we've gone out, looked at the right person, we've brought that person in. But really, what we've been trying to achieve is the biggest tenets of the fundamental for us to succeed is going to be understanding our business. We are a global company. We have work that we do for almost 22 countries in India. How do we make sure that the people that we're bringing in understand the business cold, right? The ability for them to know how a particular product sells in a particular market is very, very essential. And that's why we are trying to now start to move from the buy to the build model, right? And which then ties back to the challenge around making sure that we have the right campus hiring strategy. We are able to look at creating academies in-house where we can start to train people right from, what PepsiCo is to that functional expertise that we want them to bring. But then overlay that with career pathing, right? With the buy strategy, it's great to get talent, right? You can throw a lot of money, you get the talent in, but what happens? There is a ceiling that you hit very, very quickly, and then you lose that talent, and you lose all the knowledge that the talent has. So that's the other piece that we're trying to get is move from a buy to a build, and underlying is, use our campus, our academies to start to build that in. The other piece is the hybrid world, right? I mean, is the big elephant in the room. How do we attract people, right? Our attrition has been pretty decent, but we are seeing an uptick this year, right? We haven't mandated anything, but at some point we are expecting people to come back, and we are seeing the inertia, right? And when we talk to people, they say, well, we're doing such a good job, why do you want us to come back, right? I'm a superstar, right? I do this work really well. But the reality is you don't. You do a transactional very well, right? And that transaction is an output of what you do. But how does it tie in into the entire business goals is not something that because sitting behind a laptop in some place and you think you're doing great. The second piece is the innovation agenda is completely out of the window, right? In the last 2 years, and I don't know about all of you, we haven't seen great innovation come through, right? Innovation doesn't happen sitting behind a laptop having a cup of coffee. Innovation comes through when you co-create, when you collaborate, when you connect. And that is the piece that we are now starting to struggle and see how we do that. I mean, we are trying to create virtual models, right, where people can come back and do that and see where we can create almost sandboxes to play around. But it's still that, in my personal view, a little old-fashioned there, but the human connect, the relationships matter a lot. What I can bounce off somebody else in person sitting across is completely different. So what we are now transitioning towards is more, so we've always focused on customer experience. Now we are transitioning to employee experience. And we are trying to see, how do we enable the 4 C's, as we call them: co-create, collaborate, celebrate, and I'm forgetting the last one. But the fact of the matter is that is what we want to do. We want to create an environment for them to do that. We want to be able to get them back into whatever time they come, not to come and do emails, but really to start to look at innovate. And we are even changing the entire office, right? Back from layers of, rows and rows on decks to really creating collaboration spaces, white spaces where you can come back, think about whiteboard, etc. So those are all the things that we are now starting to build upon as we're looking at overcoming some of the challenges, because we know for certain that in the next 6 months, we are going to see an attrition hump. And how we overcome that is going to be a challenge.
Thank you so much. In fact, as you were speaking, I could reflect upon how some of these are like pervasive across all the work that we also do. But thank you so much. Mr. Bansal.
Okay, so you spoke about challenge. I would say it's more than challenge, my fear, that in this race, robots should not leave humans behind. So it's extremely, extremely important that we make our current and future employees ready for this change. And I keep going to few schools and management colleges, etc. Barring few top-notch institutes and barring few management schools, and typically shared services don't hire too many people from big management schools, but the kind of population we hire institutes from, I don't think they are there yet in terms of producing the right talent which will be needed in the market after 3 or 4 years. My daughter is doing BTech. My friends' kids are working in different streams. Everyone talks about technology. Everyone says that, okay, we are learning something new in technology. But still at the pace at which industry is moving, our educational institutes needs to catch up fast. Otherwise, we will struggle a lot 5 years or 7 years from now to get the right talent to do the kind of work we are expecting. So yeah, in nutshell, my biggest challenge today is how do we keep our current and future population ready for the new technology which is coming our way.
Well, that's very helpful, and I think so obviously something for all our education institutes to also pay attention to.
So my view is, one is of course talent, how to retain the talent, how to get the good talent. The another one is the cost, because the cost to get this talent is increasing, and business will not be ready to pay that price to the shared services center especially. And the third one is this technology adoption. We should become the techno-functional people. Even as my colleague mentioned that in next 5 years, at least 40% jobs of clerk, accountant will go away actually. So how we can train our finance and accounts people for the technology piece. Even if we are saying that we have 100 bots, 100 processes, still 60% people are spending their time on Excel and on Outlook. That's a fact. So the first biggest challenge initially when we started our shared services center was the change management at the business level. Now this is the another one, the change management at the shared services level. When you are bringing new technology, new systems, how the people will look into that. So I think these 3 to 4 are the biggest challenge in coming 2 to 3 years.
I think while we take away the fact that talent, right, how the talent skill set needs to be more expertise and more domain centric as compared to the process. I think what I really appreciate is that none of the challenges came through in terms of are the parents thinking of how do we leverage the GBS. I think that is something which is given, right? Everyone knows that, okay, if a global organization is not leveraging the GBS, they're actually stepping in the behind their competitor. So it's a negative leverage that they get. I think it will be very, very helpful for all of us to listen to leaders. We still have about 8-9 minutes. So maybe if time permits, we can take few questions.
Yeah, just one more thing I just want to add, just in terms of challenges that we are also facing, and this is more external than internal, right? And this is where the ability for us to really become very agile and create agile frameworks to deal with the changing regulations, especially on the technology front, which is slowing us down, right, within GBSs. Like data localization, right, is just one big one that's been out there for a long time. It started with Amex when I was there with them. It's continuing here. But we haven't really been able to build that, right? And that's where we need to start to look at leveraging some of our industry bodies, NASSCOM and so on, to start to do that. But internally as well, I think we need to start to become more agile in terms of how we pivot and how we educate our parent companies, to the point you're making, about being more amenable to starting to make these changes and investing in some of these, because that is going to be, I mean, everything else aside, if you're not able to overcome that obstacle, it's going to slow us down in the future.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Maybe we have time for a few questions, and maybe if we can have some mics for the audience, please.
Hello. My question to Mr. Jain, actually we heard about this RPA deployment, and of course that has been a bit of a revolution in itself, right? At a point in time where we juggled through the juggernauts of people assuming insecurity for them, and then how we actually blended them together, and now we are working together, right? That way. It's always a concept of a best married couple, right? Like you fight during the day, but you make up by the night, right? Sort of. So coming back to this, I also heard, like, you mentioned we are deployed, there is a concept of value creation, and we deployed about, say, 500 dashboards, which you are referring, right? One frequent issue which we face that we keep on, working too many on the dashboards, which becomes a ready reckoner for the business, which is the objective. But sometimes we develop so many and then we don't look at the utilization actually. And the back end, we tend to see that there are some alternatives which are also working, right? How do we look at this governance and what is the impact of this, right? Because it adds to the cost of organization, efficiency, and of course, we don't bring the value which we ever wanted to. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so as I told that the technology adoption is the big challenge, and that is the reason that we splitted our teams into two. Like the manufacturing company, where there is a PD department who is developing the product and who is using that product, and then now handing over that product to the marketing team. In the same way, we have this value lab where value lab is developing, and that's the centralized function. So each and every requirement, even for 25,000 employees, will come to the value lab. So it's not the case that we have a decentralized system where the people are raising their own request and they don't have a complete visibility, and the IT is developing that. So we have this centralized system. So by centralizing this function, we are overcoming that challenge that we are not creating the unnecessary dashboards. So that is one. The second is the adoption. Even at our level, chairman is the sponsor for the shared services. That's very unique, because in most of the organizations, finance and accounts generally is the sponsor for the shared services center. In our case, Mr. B.K. Goenka is the sponsor of this shared services. He's not having the quarterly meeting, he is having the monthly meeting with us. And in our monthly meeting, we are also sharing the all 600 dashboards adoption. And all the big scorer there, like scorecard is there, that how many people are using that. Even we run one drive that we should reduce the usage of Excel. And we put this in our variable gateway. That, okay, if you will be able to reduce the usage of Excel because you are using the Power BI, then you will be eligible for the variable or the variable part of your CTC. So by using these 3 to 4 practical things, I think the adoption is close to 90% in our case for these 600 dashboards.
We had a question over here as well.
So I have a question. My name is Shiva Subramanian. I actually lead the Global Finance Center for Alstom in Bangalore. My question is more for Nitin, because you were talking about the change management, especially in a manufacturing setup, where there are people who have done the AP, AR back in the factories, adopting to a GBS kind of a climate, right? My question is, has there been a conscious effort, let's say, to build digital competencies, as part of their career development, we are all very familiar with the performance management cycles, driven by HR, the training development plan, etc., etc. But with so much on the technology front going on, from your experience, has there been a conscious effort to, upgrade people into, let's say, at least advanced Excel, Power BIs, or Tableaus, etc., etc. So, that the people in the GBS can be, let's say, to a certain extent self-sufficient, because today we rely a lot in terms of information, IT department's roadmap to bring in new technologies, integrate into the organization's technology, etc. But I also feel there is a need, that some of the folks in the GBS needs to be at least self-sufficient. There should be a basic to intermediate awareness of how to leverage beyond the 2% of an Excel, how to leverage, your other Power BIs which comes with your O365, etc., etc.
So so that was the our problem statement also in year 2020 when we moved or when we run the drive for this digitalization, and that was the change management for our employees also. So of course we invested on the learning and development. We hired lots of consultants for this RPA as well as for the Power BI. Even today, rather within the shared services, we have some variable gateway, and one of the variable gateways is this, the technology. The 20% weightage of their variable depends that how many bots, how many dashboards they developed beyond certain limit. Okay, so that is helping us. Even we have the promotion criteria that if you want promotion, you should be green belt certified. So of course these things are helping us to change that drive. Even the chartered accountants are coming to us. They are saying that they want to learn RPA because as I told that in next 4 to 5 years, the functional jobs will not be part of the GBS probably. There will be the demand of the techno-functional people. So that means you have a good functional knowledge as well as you want or you know the languages or the technical languages of these bots and the Power BI, etc. So by doing this, and it's a continuous process. Still we are learning. We are changing our strategy also time to time along with the APACs. But yes, all such things are helping us to develop the techno-functional people within our GPS. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think so we had time for these many questions, but obviously feel free to network with the leaders. But again, I would want to thank all the leaders for the time. Amazing set of insights, both in terms of what lies ahead in future, but also more importantly, how they have actually made changes to the current organizations. What are current challenges? So a lot for us to learn from these. That's all we had. Thank you so much.